go again. There you go.
There we go. Okay, everyone. My name is Mark Rodriguez. Just a little bit about myself. I've been in the industry, I think, for around, can't count, 25 years, dealing with auto ID industry, health monitoring, and really interested in tracking people and assets and products, really. This kind of brings me back to where Telematics is. I've been at this company, MTData, for 10 years. And so I'm just going to go through some ideas or some concepts of where we're going with telematics in the transport industry. And I'm going to talk about how it improves fleet driver safety. Okay? And this is very important because in the morning we talked about risks, legislation, compliance. So this all ties in together. I hope I don't put on my training hat today, but at the same time, just want to keep focused on the topic itself. Okay. So about MTData, what company do I work for? We're an Australian design company, manufacturer of products. We're an in-house development team. We have customer support, field service in-house. We have a global capacity. We'll deal with areas like in New Zealand, UK, Canada, and US, and the Middle East. We have our own API system, which is an application protocol, which we can interface with other telematic products or also logistics products. And we have inbuilt industry compliances. So we have compliance for fatigue management, for hill descent monitoring. Okay, so we've done a lot in this space. So what does MTData provide? We are GPS tracking solutions provider. We monitor driver behavior to help drivers deal with their fatigue. We deal with monitoring driver behavior, view footage for cameras, ensure compliance with legislation, and also we integrate, like I mentioned, into the supply chain. Okay, so just looking at what we talked about this morning is just going to recap back again exactly what we're dealing with. Is what are some of the key challenges that we face in the transport industry? The aging workforce we went through, high cost of assets. We're dealing with vast different types of conditions we have out there on the roads. The new driverless technologies that we're coming up with, we're facing, and the safety and compliance. Okay. So what do fleet managers really depend on? Okay, so these are some of the areas they depend on. In order to provide telematics is, really require reliable data. The reports have to be nice and accurate. Okay. And you have to make sure that we analyze the driver's behavior, okay, at all times. And that's what they're really facing all the time, is knowing what their behavior is like, how they're doing out there in the field, and how their assets are performing, okay, to do with maintenance of vehicles. So if we look at what are the driving forces that are impacting this, okay, so if you look at, there's a list of them, but I think some of you maybe be a bit familiar with it. We look at, distracted driving, failing to adjust driving to road, wet weather conditions, influence of drugs and alcohol, okay, speeding, reckless driving, failing to maintain trucks to a quality standard, okay, and failing to observe and enforce brake periods, which is important. Okay, so how does telematics kind of help to prevent all this? Okay, so it prevents by reduction of risk, by having videos to driver exoneration, monitor and reward good drivers, driver behavior, okay, and respond quickly to emergencies. And also for remote workers, it also helps that also. Okay, so what is really required in a telematic system requires a very good advanced tracking system. Okay, so right now we're not just dealing with a dot on the map. So traditionally, everybody just wants to know where the vehicles are. The telematics is changing. We want to know how a vehicle is doing, where it is, when, and also the behavior of what vehicles are actually doing with the drivers. So for example, real-time tracking captures some of this information, which we use. We can grab speed monitoring, location, know exactly how the vehicles are, how long they've been idling for, to do with waypoints, exactly to know when they're in a waypoint, outside of a waypoint, how long they've been there for, which offers a lot of triggers for that. To do with vehicle history, okay, to know exactly where a vehicle was at a certain time. Driver alerts to do with harsh braking, cornering, has a lot to deal with to capture this information. Okay. Another main area is remoteness. Okay, this always comes up a lot. I need to track my vehicles out in an area where there's no Telstra NXG. Well, there are ways we can do it by using Iridium satellite modem. By using that modem, we can send information. The driver can send information back and forth, okay, to the operations at real time. Okay, so by doing that, we can actually use duress products to do that. For example, in an emergency, this duress, for example, product can actually have it in the truck, or it can have it outside the truck with the driver. And also the new types that are coming out with also have motion sensing. So for example, it's fall protection. So for example, if the driver has a 45-degree angle and falls down 45 degrees, it will actually alert the manager that the driver has fallen. Okay, so there's special sensing capabilities in some of these products that you can do that. And the latest thing that is really pushing on is Mobile Eye, which is a driver monitoring system, okay, which is pretty well what it's called a collision avoidance system. Okay, so it's aftermarket. You can attach it to your trucks, and it offers audio and visual capability, which deals with forward collision, lane departing, pedestrian detection. The detection is pretty well from 1.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds delay, picking up information. And it has become right now very popular with an add-on feature. So when we're dealing with what the drivers can do now, we're dealing with in the vehicle solution. Okay? So what are some of the areas that a driver can do in the vehicle? How can we grab and capture all that information, okay, and record it in a GPS, in a telematics system? Okay, so the telematics system can do a driver hands-free. You can make phone calls on it. You can have two-way text speeches. You can alert drivers. You can have pop-ups coming up. There's a lot of things you can control and you can do with that. You can add different tabs to it. You can use third-party applications and add certain types of documents to it too. Okay. So when it comes to compliance, okay, what we do is that with the compliance, we can add the driver's pre-trip, okay, questions. All the pre-trip questions can be added in there. We can have driver incident reporting. So drivers can enter in an incident at any time. Okay. So they can, when the driver enters in an incident, it records the date and time automatically. It shows a picture of where the driver's been and the location, so the operations knows exactly the incident when it occurred. As I put down here, the incidents the driver can do is if they have like a physical injury, if they have a motor vehicle accident, or they have a customer dispute, they can actually action that at that time. Another thing you can do, the drivers can do, is do their vehicle inspections. Okay, so the vehicle inspections, they can raise alerts. So, for example, the vehicle inspections is all electricals are fine, the body, if there's any body damage, just to make sure that your fire extinguisher is in the vehicle, like a checklist, just to make sure it's there or not. And for example, if there's a engine oil leaking and the driver says, yes, there is, we can actually have a stop work alert popping up saying stop work, and it'll go to the manager, and the manager can action that. So all these tools, all these things are there to help the driver, you know. Also fatigue compliance, okay, so fatigue compliance offers a real-time fatigue data. What it really does is that the fatigue compliance is linked up to an NCR, okay, so it's a non-conformance register, and the non-conformance register actually can prompt operations to know exactly the history of the driver, what they've done in the past. Okay. Also, we have onboard. You can do onboard a mass wing, so it's IEP monitoring. So the driver, it notifies the driver if it declares if it has allowable weight. If the driver goes over that weight, automatically it'll prompt the operations to know that yes, this vehicle cannot go further because it has hit a mass declaration, over mass weight declaration. Okay. Hill descent monitoring. Okay, this is another way for steep gradients and long descents. So this offers another way of reducing risk, okay, by actually having by using the video cameras on there and actually having certain types of waypoints that are along, for example, Row Hill. So you can actually demark certain geofences in those areas to know the speed zones in that certain area. Of course, having an inbuilt in-vehicle camera to track exactly the video footage of what the vehicle's been doing. And with that, for example, just to give an example here of a BHP rail crossing, okay? You can actually set up a geofence, so when the vehicle goes in the beginning of it, it starts recording the video, and when it starts recording the video at the end, it stops recording. So it's all event-based. So we can create these geofences, and it will just record certain amounts that you want, and then you can look it up. And it'll trigger it in the software, and it'll show exactly all the real work, all the crossings or any particular bridge or anything that you've been at that particular time. Yeah.
Will it still record the whole thing, but then you can search up with those geofences, or will it only record the geofence?
It'll record all the way up.
Like the whole trip?
The whole trip.
But you can just search the geofence?
You can search the geofence. So what it will do, that's a good question. What it will do, it will actually trigger an alert, because you hit that particular spot, and it'll trigger an alert that yes, they did go on the bridge or on that railroad crossing. At the same time, it'll pop up, so you know. Yeah. So it does both. It's constantly recording. Mm-hmm. But these are events. These are event triggered, so you can trigger an event. So you can see how this is all coming into play, how it's all coming together with, especially if you're using a lot of waypoints. So another thing is coaching the drivers. We're talking about educating the drivers. How is a telematics system going to educate drivers? I mean, how is that possible? Well, there's different methods of doing it. First is offering like a scorecard. They call it a scorecard, or driver points, or driver behavior. There's different terminologies to it. And what it is, it's driver behavior. It's based out of probably around 100 points. For example, if you're speeding, you get deducted 10 points. Okay? If you're idling for too long, more than 20 minutes, get deducted 5 points. So the management can decide how many points you want to deduct. Okay? So you got your worst drivers, there's less points, and you have your good drivers have more points. And you can do a reward system. One company gave a case of beer, and I said, I don't think so, that's a good idea, okay? Because actually you're promoting something that you really don't want. So, no, there's different methods, give gift cards, there's a lot of different things. And also it offers, and like I put here, drivers get immediate feedback of unacceptable behavior. So what will happen in the tracking software, on the tablet, it will pop up that they have lost points, okay? And at the same time, they know. So you don't have to really communicate with them. I know it sounds like you don't want to communicate with them, but you don't have to go tell them, hey, Bob, you were speeding. They already know they were speeding, okay? Because they already got the warning, okay? You don't have to have the points deducted. A lot of companies don't have the points deducted. They just use it as a tool just to enforce, good behavior in driving. Okay. Another way of educating is using electronic documents. So in other words, you can actually put all your permits in there, you can put all your guides, you can put all your licenses in there, exactly what we were talking about in the morning, we can put that on there. You don't need a booklet in the vehicle for some safety operator to go in there every month to try to update something when they forgot one sheet of paper or something. This is automated. You can actually go into the system and you can update it anytime, okay? And it's vehicle specific too. So it's not only for the whole fleet. Okay? And then also what it does, electronic documents, which you can actually do is know that the driver has actually viewed the document. Okay, so there's a report on this saying how many I sent out the safety document, how many viewed it? Well, they viewed it, but you don't know if they really read it. It's impossible to know right now, but they know that they've viewed the document. Another one to do education is using an MDM, okay, which is a mobile device manager. It's almost like controlling your phone remotely or a tablet. So you can actually go into this remotely, and when the driver is going through certain steps through the fatigue management system, you can actually guide them through it, or where they're stuck in certain sections of the their in the tablet application. Okay. Another one is to have, I think I mentioned a little bit about this, but it's warnings triggered by waypoints. So as soon as you go through a certain waypoint, it pops up that you're speeding. So zones and areas that are like really high risk areas of speeding is really required. This is very valuable. So every time it'll pop up in hazard areas and gives speed warning, and it's audible. Okay. Some people said, can I change the audible voices? No, you can't change the audible voices yet, but it's just standard kind of voice that comes up. Okay. Another one is to educate is using forms alerting. So forms alerting is, so what you can do, for example, if you go in a certain waypoint, it'll pop up a form. So for example, the safety take 5 you want to do in a certain area, we can actually do that. Delivery questions. You want to ask delivery questions at a certain point, you can pop up your company form, and you can do that company form. You can do your, how the driver's doing, like how they're feeling. Okay, so we can do all that by using forms. Okay, then the next one has to do with the maintenance. Okay, to make sure your vehicle is maintained properly, to actually do, like, for example, service A, B, or C, to make sure it's doing fine. The drivers get to know when the vehicle needs to be serviced. Okay, and then we have what you call, there's advanced fleet management systems. Advanced workshop management systems to actually go beyond just the basic maintenance. Okay, this has to do with compliance. So we can have purchase orders, we can have parts suppliers linked to that. We can actually assign a job to a mechanic. Okay, so if there's a defect in one of the vehicles, we can actually assign that to a mechanic, and the mechanic can go to the work order. Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and what it can actually do is it brings all the information from the tablet, and it brings it into this fleet management system, which you can capture, like, for example, odometer reading, hub meter readings, engine hours, daily fuel checks, fault reporting. Everything gets brought into the system, and this system does all your compliance checks for you. So it's not just everything is separated, everything is immersed all together into one. So last thing I want to look at is reporting, which is probably probably one of the most important things through telematics. We overlook it. What reporting is going to be doing, it's bringing up your dashboard. So where's all this information going? Before, we used to have an small little Excel report showing where the vehicle has been, or what it's been, where it's been, how long it's been running for. But now it's becoming more evident that business intelligence is becoming very, very important. Okay, we have what you call companies that are using terminology called data marts. So in other words, each division in a company, you have your logistics area, you have your HR, you have your finance, you have all those areas that we can actually extrapolate and ingest that data, okay, into a more an area of using it for forecasting and planning tools. There's companies like, for example, like Power BI and Tableau, for example. If we look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which I put up here, we can look on the top right-hand side. We have Microsoft, we have Salesforce, and we have, like, for example, big companies like IBM over there that are really pushing into the space of trying to provide anybody that has information of data, pushing this information so it's becoming more viable, so you can actually see what's going on in your division, By doing that, you can actually use what you call an application protocol to grab all that information to come through, or we can use what you call an Amazon, I know it's a terminology, it's hard to understand, Amazon Kinesis stream. So what happens that all this information that we're grabbing from the system can actually be pushed out in what they call a data lake. So in other words, that information is sent out, and programmers can actually grab that information and produce dashboards like this, for example. So here's a driver's dashboard, actually showing you on the right-hand side a heat map. Okay, so it shows you a heat map of active drivers that were driving at that particular time. We can actually show how many drivers have been, using the vehicle, certain percentages, and this is all customizable because all the data, all that information is being given to you. For example, in operations, we can find out the total amount of jobs that were done for the day, okay, how many jobs were not done. We can look at safety dashboard. Okay, we can actually see how many how many drivers had fatigue breaches for that day. Okay, we can see another heat map on there for speeding infringes. Okay, so we can do all that with dashboarding, with business intelligence systems. Okay, so overall, to conclude, what is required for improving driver safety is actually your vehicle, looking at your vehicle data to make sure that it's robust, okay? Looking at the driver data to make sure that it's there. Educating your drivers, okay? Integration, make sure you're integrating into your other platforms, okay? And reporting, make sure you're extracting the right information so you can get real-time reporting, okay? So if you want any more information on any of the solutions and everything, you can go to our MTData website and look at all the different other solutions that we do. Okay, and that's it.